Hi everyone, it's Penny Black and Jill Foster here with another PB&J card class, and today I'm going to be doing some scenic stamping for you, and I'm going to be using one stamp to create 3 colorful winter scenes. So I really love doing this sometimes, is taking a technique, taking a layout and then creating it in different colorways. So some of these are not quite your traditional colorful look for winter, but I think that kind of adds to the magical fun, like a sunset in the winter. So the stamp I'm using is 40-866 Landscape, and I'm going to use a technique I've used it before in a video several years ago, but I'm just sort of redoing it here with this stamp. So I'm going to first ink up my stamp using the lightest color of ink that I'm using on this card. So I believe this was like a cobalt blue. Then I'm going to go in and add the darker color to the trunks of my trees using a marker. And I'm just using a marker here because that's the easiest way to get into these fine little areas without also coloring onto sort of the snowbanks in the background. I will do this a couple of times because when you use a marker to put ink onto a stamp, it's not going to apply as evenly as the flatness of an ink pad. So that's why I do like using my stamp positioning tool to stamp this. Then I'm going to go ahead and use another color here to get the branches. Now all of the exact colors that I am using will be listed down in the YouTube description box below. So basically for this card, I wanted to have a blue down on the ground, so I did that first. Then I wanted the trees to be brown, so I went ahead and got their trunks with the marker, and then the branches with a brown ink pad. And then here I'm just grabbing another marker to color these small little branches that are down here at the base of the tree. And the marker, I'm doing those in a brown, and the marker lets me just get the ink only where I want it onto those branches. Any places that I want to just kind of solidify there on the trunk of the tree, I'm just going to take my marker directly to my paper. I'm using Neenah Solar White Cardstock, so just a smooth white cardstock. Now I'm going to clean off my stamp. I'm keeping everything in the same position in my MISTI stamp positioning tool. I am going to put a anti-static powder onto the area where I am stamping, because now I'm going to clear emboss all of everything that I have stamped. So I'm using VersaMark ink onto my stamp, stamping it right on top. Get it a couple times, make sure I get it all. Then I will now finally take it out of my stamp positioning tool and sprinkle clear embossing powder on the top. And then I will use heat to set that. What that does is that seals in all of the stamping that we have done. So when we add our ink blending and our colors onto the background, it will all keep that same color no matter what we put on top of it. So here is the next color variation. So I'm going to go ahead and do all of my stamping at once, and then I'll go back and do my ink blending on the background. And so for this one, I'm using a light green for sort of that base bottom snowbank area. Then I'm going to put the color onto my trees just as I did before using a marker, so that those have that brown trunks. Now you could certainly color each section with markers as well, but I just find it so much faster to put, like if I know I want all that bottom part to be green, it's just and it's light, it's easier to do that first with an ink pad and then add these other color with markers afterward, rather than coloring all the green areas with a green marker, the brown with a brown marker, and getting all those branches. That's kind of tricky sometimes with the marker, so I like to go back in and get those with the ink pad. I can do them a couple of times to darken them up. But you can see there how you can get then the different colors onto this stamp in a pretty efficient way. Then I'll just go back and get these little pieces with the brown marker. Now I am noticing my paper shifted a little bit, but never fear. Actually, this is something you might want to try to do. If you shift your paper ever so slightly before you do your heat embossing, that clear embossing, it will give it the look of like a white frost on your branches when you add your ink blending. And you'll see that here on this card when I do the ink blending on the background. It's actually like a beautiful oops. So if your paper shifts a little bit in between putting the color on and doing the VersaMark ink and the heat embossing is beautiful. You might even want to go for that. Just shift it ever so slightly to one side. It'll still get enough of the embossing onto your colored areas to sort of seal in that color, but you will also get this really cool frosty look. So for the third colorway, I'm going to do that stamping now. I'm going to do sort of a gray color here on the snowbanks, or that shadowy rocky area down at the bottom, and then I will do my trees the same way with my markers. Now if you stay tuned to the very end of the video, I will show you a totally different look with this stamp that looks very natural and is not as saturated in color. It has some more neutral tones to it. So this is definitely one of those stamps. You can take it in any direction that you want. I also think it would be beautiful just stamped in VersaMark ink and white heat embossed, like everything is just white snow, and then you could do your ink blending on top. So many different ways you can use this. I also love stamps like this that are great for Christmas cards, of course, or winter cards. Also great for masculine cards, winter birthdays. So it's versatile. Depending on what sentiment you put, you can really use this for lots of different occasions in the winter time. Just going to go ahead and get the branches up here at the top. I'll put my powder tool on top. This just helps the embossing powder only stick in the places where you want it to stick and not to stick on the background. I'll ink this with VersaMark ink, and then again we will sprinkle it with clear embossing powder and then heat that to set. I'm going to do it a couple of times just like I did before. Now, before we take this out of our stamp positioning tool, I want to create a mask. So I just have some Eclipse masking paper down in the stamp positioning tool. It's kind of like a giant sticky note. So the back is sticky, the top is just paper. And I stamped that down. I just need this line here, sort of the horizon line, and I'm going to cut that out, and this will be a mask that I will use when I apply the ink onto the cards. So behind my head there, I'm just placing that mask over the stamped area, and now I'm going to use an ink blending tool with a foam pad to ink up my background. Now, you can use any colors that you like. You can go for just blues, grays. You could do a moon in the background. There's so many different ways you could do this, but I just went for the just three different colorways. I started there to create sort of either a sunrise or a sunset at the center of the card, and then I am doing some blues around the outside now. Again, I'll have the exact colors used listed down in the YouTube description box below. Starting off of the edge and working my way on in a circular motion. I like to always start light and then add more color in, more depth as I go. I have sped this up. I certainly don't go this fast, and I do a very light pressure and build up the color by layers instead of by pushing hard. That keeps the sort of streaks and blotchy areas from showing up. But if you get some blotchy areas, don't worry. We're going to put some snowflakes on here. So with some acrylic paint later on, I'll show you that. We'll hide any blotchy areas that you get. I wanted to be sure I did kind of leave that white halo between the yellow and the blue so that I don't get green when those two meet. I'm going to take off that mask. I'm going to use it again right on this card. Here I'm going to go for those oranges and the greens. This is for me probably the wildest colorway that I did on this, but I love it. I love something a little bit different sometimes. Getting some more reds in there. This is my favorite part with these cards, is going in now and adding these inks. And you can see by doing that clear embossing that we have sealed in all of those colors, and the tree trunks remain looking the same color even when we remove the mask to the area that has not been inked. Here I'm going in with some more of a turquoise sort of green color up in the sky. Again, sort of leaving that halo there. I like the way that looks, and it also keeps the colors from mixing together and creating a different color right in the middle of the sky. I'm adding a little more green on top of that. This is almost like a unique red and green combo, but I love that there when it pulls in those shadows down on the snow. And then this final color combo, it actually ended up being my favorite one. And it's some pinks and blues and purples. So I can use that masked area to start off the edge and work my way on in a circular motion. I don't know if you can tell yet, but you can see when I talked about that sort of area where it shifted and you get some of the white, sort of the white area from the heat embossing when it shifted in the stamp positioning tool. You'll probably see it better on the close-up photos, I'm guessing. Here I'm going in with the light colors first, so a lighter purple. This felt a little like neonish to me, so I will add some more colors on top of that to sort of tone it down. But these are so fun to do. Here we go. I'm going to get some more purples on top, sort of darken this up a little bit. I love the way, by using more than one color, I love the way those sort of mix in the sky. And then even, I believe this is chipped sapphire. And to me, this just like, ooh, that tones it down a little bit, but you still have a little bit of the glow from those original brighter colors. And there you can see sort of that white frosty look on those branches on the tree where things sort of shifted. Isn't that pretty? All right, so I've removed my mask. I just store that with my stamp because you can use it over and over. Now these are little detail blending tools. They're by Ranger and Wendy Vecchi, and they are great. They just have a little sponge tip on the end. So I'm dipping them in the ink and very lightly rubbing them down here at the bottom at the base of those trees just to add more shadow and some inking down below. So you'll just dab it there in my ink and then very lightly sort of swipe across. And I think that adds a lot to the scene, and it ties in the colors from the top down below. It doesn't look quite so stark then down at the base of the card in those snowbanks. And finally, the crazy colored one. I'd love to know what your favorite color combo is on these cards. Is it the traditional blue sky, this crazy one, or the purples and pinks? Leave me a comment below. I'd love to hear what is your favorite. Now, I wanted to just add a little bit more depth up here at the top, so I'm using a dark brown. I believe this is Acorn by Ranger Archival Inks, and just getting it into very lightly on those corners. And I think that brings together the darkness of those tree trunks and balances that out up at the top of the card. But not too much, just in the corners. Now I have a little bit of acrylic white paint that I have added on an old acrylic block. I'm just picking it up with my paintbrush and adding some snow to the sky falling down on this scene. You most certainly could just splatter this on, but I have the worst luck with splatters, so this is actually easier for me, and so I just paint it on. My sentiments were stamped with our 30-925 Jolly Snippet stamp set. This is the best stamp set. Nice small sentiments that can fit perfectly to any scene or any card that you're creating. Also a lot of options so you can match it up. So here I put Brightest Blessings. I felt like that really worked with that sky that we did on this one. On this next card, Believe in the Magic, I felt like that was like a very magical looking sky. There you can see a close-up of the way that shifted a little bit before I put the clear embossing powder in, and maybe I should have just told you I meant to do that to add some frost to the branches. Same on this one as well. Winter Wonderland, those colors are certainly Wonderland colors. And then, as promised, here is a totally different look, another idea using the same stamp landscape with much more natural, softer colors. So you can get a totally different look. You can layer other trees in the background and add die cuts, even a little stitching die up there at the top. I thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video and you are inspired to do some bold inking and some scenic stamping. If you did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also connect with Penny Black on Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter, as well as Instagram, our website, and our blog, and I'll link all those for you down in the YouTube description box below. Happy stamping!